Welcome back to another episode of Have You Heard? Today, I am joined by the lovely, lovely Adam Ward.
Why do you make it sound like we're on Take Me Out or
no liking?
Liking?
Well, it could take a turn for the worse.
It could.
Today, we're going to be talking about agency versus in-house, and when brands should either work with someone like ourselves at the Social Shepherd as an agency when it makes sense for them to do that, versus should they be building that team out and function within marketing for themselves. Obviously, I think there's a lot of nuances to that decision. And there's multiple reasons why, I guess, when we ask, why are you looking to work with an agency? There's a plethora of answers about why that could be. Some of those being that they don't have a specific resource in-house. Someone might have left the business and they're looking to have a solution in place for the next 12 months and sort of seeing if that's how they want to continue. But I guess, Adam, where do you see the benefits of an agency versus in-house to kick it off with?
So I think it very much depends on what stage you are as a business, which I'll come on to in a minute. But I think the primary benefits of working with an agency over having in-house, give or take, well, I'll base this on the generalized sort of setup of a brand or a business, certainly say what we work with. A lot of our clients will be set up where in-house they will predominantly probably have more like generalized marketing teams that sit across lots of different sort of outputs. So that could be social, digital, PR, and you have your marketing manager or brand lead or whatever it is that is, running that. And then they've got a team underneath them of more general sort of skill sets. So the benefit of that point of working with an agency really is specialization and specialisms and being able to offer experience and knowledge of certain tools and platforms and better routes to success in those areas. As well as, I think after a while, and one of the big things for me is the diversity in thinking, whether that's through the creative ideation, whether that's just generally through how you're going to market your stuff or you're doing your ad spends and your audiences and all that kind of stuff. When you deal with specialists or creative agencies, you've got a real mix of people and skill sets coming together. And I think when you're that generalist in-house, and there's nothing wrong with that because they obviously are functioning and serve a purpose in that way, is you can get so absorbed in your brand, the way things work, and it not necessarily becomes always very dull, but it can be quite samey and repetitive. So bringing in that outside sort of diverse way of thinking, I think, is certainly one of the key benefits to how a brand may work.
A fair amount
Massively.
of times, where obviously everyone as a part of all different teams and departments, our side, they're not just working on one brand. They're always working against a plethora, and even they might be working across 3 brands, let's say. Outside of that, they're part of conversations about the wider team, what's going on, what's working, in organic across all 15 plus clients that we might have in organic, and they can bring those learnings into that. Whereas, like you said, if you're stuck in-house, you're very, insular, and you're only having conversations about that one brand, unless you've got, some sort of network outside of work, the brand that you work for.
But interestingly, even in that, you're still outsourcing your thinking. And that you're talking about there is that the structure and the setup of teams is super important because, we have an organic team, right? They can deliver organic, but within that, we've got people who really understand TikTok. If you're a marketing manager or a brand manager in-house, you're not dealing at the granular level with those channels. You want to dabble and do TikTok, but you have no idea how it works. And even if you do have an idea and an indication of how it works, you don't know how it's changing every day because the week that you're setting up and briefing your agency to do a TikTok campaign, TikTok first campaign, the next week you're back over in, ad spend world and media land because something's gone wrong or there's a new challenge with it. So it's a completely different role and skill set. And, fundamentally from that aspect, if you look at a huge amount of clients, that's how they're structured, which is more brand-led brand managers or marketing managers in a more traditional sense that sit across guiding the top line of their brands and direction. So therefore the agencies provide that insight, the detail, the opportunity to, think differently and do things exactly and bring things together in a more streamlined way.
It's funny as well, because some brands that we work with not only have, general marketing and brand managers, but they have a team for social. There's one client we work with that has 15, 20 people just in their social team. But that level of that challenge that appears, maybe that being TikTok or something like that, new platform of way of creating content for social, don't always have the resource, to manage a TikTok account effectively. There's a lot of content, a lot of ideation. It doesn't happen quickly. It doesn't happen overnight. You need a whole team to do that. So then for them to go out and hire a whole team to do that, there's not much flexibility in that as well. They can't. It's not easy just to hire loads of people and then get rid of people and just make that. Whereas it's easier probably with an agency to have that flexibility of contract.
And they're building teams like the content side, the content delivery, the ideation, the planning, but they're not necessarily doing the production, which again, the outsource to an agency, we know better than anyone. You only have to look at the camera team here. They're a great talent. It's hard to find people who can do that at scale, deliver it at scale and do it well week in, week out. So, if brands are going off, you've got to think, right, how am I going to make this as efficient as possible? I can bring in the more content-led creative people per se, and that's what we're going to build a team around. But I can't be investing in camera crews and sound people and creatives in that way. So again, the outsourcing of that to an agency just makes sense, even if it is just that specific need, which is just something they can't bring in inside.
I think one thing that also gets forgotten quite a bit is the actual cost to hire a full-time member of staff as well. And if you are building a team out specifically for TikTok, let's keep using that as our example. You might need to have someone that's sort of more middle management, and that's then managing the people doing the doing, and then you're just adding so much cost across the board. You've got pension, national insurance, per debt. If you're in an office-based situation, per a desk has a cost because it's taking up space. It's a new desk, it's a new monitor, it's a new laptop, it's everything that goes into it. There's some people might consider agencies to be on the expensive side, but they then aren't truly calculating their own sort of blended costs and total for everything that's going on behind that. Indeed. One of the least sexy answers for why an agency versus
but again, you have I think correct me if I'm wrong, we've got 4, 5 film production videographers in the building across the board, 3 or 4 editors, creative, 6, 7, 8 different creators, right? So even if you take that and you look at it from in-house, right? Well, I'm gonna bring in a videographer and an editor. You're still quite limited to what they can deliver. So creatively, if you come up with an idea and you're like, well, actually, we want to do this and we want to shoot it this way, they might not be the right people for it. Whereas even for us, we have the flexibility that
better at shooting.
Exactly, they can come. You can give them a brief very easily. You can sit in any brainstorm in Social Shepherds, and when you bring the production team and you talk about the idea, 2 people are going to have 2 very different ideas of how something might be shot, but they see it in a different way as well. So having that layer is so important. Again, if you're bringing people in-house, you're limited to the creative thinking and the output and the mindset of those people, which, it sort of reduces and limits the diversity and thinking after a while as well. So there's so much more, flexibility in doing that.
If you were a brand owner,
mm-hmm.
what type of roles would you be looking to bring in-house? If we take the other side of the argument, what do you think is important for a brand to own?
From a social perspective, if we look at it from that.
Social, I guess, and general, like, you know, if you were to bring in a social agency to help support you, who would you want as a part of your in-house team to help manage that and make sure they get the most help?
So let's use Social Shepherd as an example. I think your in-house, I'm not looking for, you know, as we've just sort of discussed, the person who knows every single thing and the minute details. Also, I think that can potentially be quite limiting, because if you've got someone who is just completely obsessed with and knows everything about TikTok, and they're your in-house team, and your other team are coming out going, or they're briefing you, your agency are coming back and going, oh, we've got this great idea for YouTube or Instagram. They're going, no, we can't. You're again limiting the thinking. So you really, what for me, the ideal, and I suppose it probably represents the ideal client in a way at that level, if you're working with them as well, is someone who has a good understanding of the landscape of social media that you're dealing in, or I'm sure for the paid team will tell you the paid landscape as well, where, you know, whatever it is that they're working with, they don't have to be specialists, but they need to understand what it is you're saying, being able to brief you. You know, there's nothing worse than receiving a brief from a client when they don't really understand what it is that they're briefing. Those clients that I would say we build really great relationships with and always deliver amazing work are the ones that understand it enough to be able to know when an idea or a strategy is good, but allow you to be creative with it because they trust that your insight and knowledge is going to take it to the next level. So you know, as soon as you get people who are almost agency people in a brand role, it becomes very sort of, no, I know best, or, you know, I'm going to do this, or we need to do X, Y, and Z, and we need to do it this way. And again, that becomes super limiting and quite difficult to work with. So for me, if I'm employing someone, I don't want to belittle it with a title of, you know, because I don't see it as that way at all, but a generalist, someone who, but it's probably specialist in a space. So I wouldn't, if I was building a social team and I had, you know, social, digital, paid across the board, I'd probably want 3 people in there. That one who knows social, you know, platforms, channels really well, potentially, you know, has a bit of insight into influencer, you know, if that's going to be part of their remit. Someone who understands the more performance paid side of things, but is looking after that digital media aspect, but still understands channels. And then a brand person who's more, you know, top line strategy, brand thinking, who can sort of, you know, audience data insight, who can sort of bring it together. And I think if you've got those 3, I think you're into a really solid foundation. And, you know, depending on what you're asking your agency to do, but certainly I think they're probably the best combination of people that you can sort of work with, from our perspective, as well as I think that's going to deliver you the best results. Yeah,
I have to agree on that as well. And I think, if you're going to work with an agency, you have to be able to give them, you know, not full reign, but like you need to be in a place where you're trusting them to be able to deliver their best work and their decision making, and make sure you, like I said, have that educated point of view where you can understand what they're doing and understand why it's having impact, but you're not trying to get too involved in it as well, where you're trying to take over on the direction, and sort of negating any sort of skill set or difference that they're trying to bring to you, and knowledge that they've learned from other clients.
I mean, that's the big thing as well, is knowledge from elsewhere, right? Like you it's not about reproducing necessarily or taking ideas that didn't work here and doing that. It's insight and knowledge from, we're doing this every day. You know, there's certain people doing specialist jobs every day. You know, it's the same thing. If I'm going to, you know, if I need a wall built in my garden, I'm going to go to a brickie probably over someone who fits kitchens, because they know that, you know, they can look at the contours of your garden and the base. Like, what do we need to do? We need to, you know, rather than a kitchen fitter coming in and going, oh yeah, we'll just put a wall up. You know, it's going to fall down after a while if it's not done properly. So people that are doing it every day, that's what you're looking for. And I think that's so much more of the value in why working with agencies is super important.
Definitely. And one thing I also see is they bring someone in for, let's say, paid social, but then because paid social doesn't actually require them to take up all of their time. They then get lumped other jobs to do. So they might, can you create some organic content? And it's really not their bag. They actually love just doing paid social, and that's what they're really talented at. They get drawn into other areas which they don't enjoy, aren't good at, and then think, is this the right role for me? And then end up leaving because that's not what they signed up to do. Or, they might learn more about paid search, but again, this paid social side is really what they love to do. And I think it's almost like if there's a real like full-time need for someone in paid, so there's you need to be spending a really decent amount of money to do that. But you don't, because you don't want to be hiring people thinking you're being efficient by getting them to do 2 jobs, but them actually really not enjoying what their role has now turned out to be.
Yeah. And I suppose that's also then, I think, back to the original point of if you're getting into a position where you've got like an in-house team, I suppose if you get really granular with it and you think about startups and businesses and go right back to the beginning, I don't know the exact time frame, but you've probably got 12, 18, 24 months whilst you're finding your product market fit, where you're doing a whole load of stuff, right? And really in that time, you're not even you might think about social, and if it's a primary, if you're an e-commerce business, right, it may be a thing for you, but really within that time, it's like hand to mouth, knocking on doors, who's going to buy your product, making sure that it works. Because from experience, I had a wine business and we went hell for leather into it, and we were like, it's a social first e-com business. We had one product. Within 6 weeks, we realized no one buys the same bottle of wine from one place. That's our entire business plan out the window. In that situation, we were far too slow to react, and we didn't change our model quick enough. But we found out that actually we had a market in farm shops and all that. Now that changed our model because our price point and everything dropped, and we had to relook at the whole thing. But my point being is, for 12 months, it was, how do we actually sell? Where does this product really fit? We had this idea, we had a hypothesis of what was going to fit. So in that time, in the first year or two, until this is where we work, this is where we fit. Now we're on a bit of a roll. Agencies and social are the last thing you need to think about. Get the foundations in. I think when you get to a point of, okay, we know what we're doing, you can probably still run a little bit in-house if social's important to you and create bits and pieces. But it's that sort of scale up point where you're like, okay, John can't do this anymore because he likes photography and it was good for a bit. But to your point, we can't ask him to do paid social and influencer because either he doesn't know it or he doesn't enjoy it. So we need to think about this. We've also, we're going to invest decent budgets into this now. We want it to become a proper thing, and we're going to go for it and try it. That's the point when agencies, I think, become really important for brands, if obviously you've got a budget to be able to afford them. If not, I think you can probably build a mini agency with maybe freelancers or a small creative team or whatever you need at that point. But that's when agencies are going to really be able to elevate your business, when you know what you're trying to do, and you can provide a really solid brief. You're still in a phase where there might be a bit of learning, but you can go in and go, right, we want to just focus on Instagram for the year and get that up and running. Our paid, we really need to, we're looking at driving traffic and doing this. And, these are our peak times of the year. This is what we want to do. When you're at that point, that's when agencies are going to become super beneficial.
It's also what we look for as well. We don't want to work with a pure startup, which is finding its feet. We want to work with someone that's, gained traction as a part of what they've done at a minimum. And we're just adding fuel to that fire rather than going, what on earth's going on here? There's still so many decisions to be made, and there's not a clear focus like this is the right path to go. So it works both ways, not only what the brand where they should be placing themselves, but also what an agency from our side would look for.
Yeah, massive. And I think we have that a lot. You know, if we're probably going through a process now where, and we've spoken about it before on here. You know, we're 5 years old almost. Even in that time, it feels weird to say, but there's legacy clients which are great. You know, and we love working with them, and they're really good. But if you look at the client base of where they might sit and where new businesses sit, just the evolution of, you know, it's not always just about the amount they spend, but what they're doing and how they value social, which I think is the big one, to where, you know, when you found your product market fit, you know, be the number one social media agency in the UK, in the world, whatever, you know, it's then to do that, your clients and your brands need to reflect that appreciation for social. They need to reflect that ambition. They need to not see it as just another byproduct. And so it's not even just about legacy ones that maybe social is a pillar to them. It's also when briefs come in, like you say, looking at big clients sometimes, you know, is social really important for them, or is it just something they feel they need to be doing? Because that's going to massively impact and benefit us and the output. Because if it's not of high value to them, and we're putting, so it doesn't matter how big they are, exactly, it's great, it looks nice on the website, and you know, it looks good on LinkedIn for a few weeks, and we can shout about it, but it's not. It's hugely going to impact
the value.
The value. Well. Exactly. So you know, clients and brands, you know, being right, ready, speaking to them, knowing, right, okay, we see the value in this, we want to do it, we want to try, they're in the right place, you know, they can drive results from it, whatever it may be that they want to do. That's where we're going to have a great impact, and I think that's when agencies are going to be super important for you. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thanks. No likey, no lighty. We'll bring that one back again. But, you know, it's been a good one, and love to discuss always these types of debates about agencies in-house. But there's so much that both sides can bring to the table. It's just creating that perfect balance between them both. As brands of all sizes use agencies, so there's always a purpose and reason to use them, but it's striking that sort of balance between your in-house team versus how an agency can support that. Indeed. Wow. Thank you very much for listening. Everyone, we'll be back again soon. And please make sure to follow along.